Hey, it's Dave and welcome back to Bass Blog. I've been away for about 3 weeks producing and playing some, and I really haven't had a chance to sit down and do another lesson. But today's a rainy day here in San Antonio, so I thought it would be a great day to get out and do a little something. In the first 2 episodes, we talked about the arpeggio, and we talked about the triad as being the first vehicle that we use to master the arpeggio. In the first 2 episodes, we talked about the major triad and then the minor triad. Well, today we're going to be talking about the diminished triad. Whereas the major triad and the minor triad had mixed intervals in them, one major third, one minor third, the diminished triad is a symmetrical chord consisting of all minor thirds. And it is since it also is a symmetrical pattern, it repeats itself, as I'll show you here in a second. Very cool chord progressions to use with diminished, and I'll show you what I mean here. Since the diminished chord is made up of all minor thirds, I'll start on C and play minor thirds, and you'll notice something that happens. C, E flat, G flat, A, C, E flat, G flat, A. You see the pattern repeats itself. And since there are 4 notes that are in that little diminished run there are only 3 groups of 4, which makes it very interesting. So we have, again, C, E flat, G flat, A, B, D, F, A flat, D flat, E, G, B flat. Now that's 3 groups of 4 which cover all 12 of our tones. Important to remember that this pattern repeats, as when you start learning about chords, you'll find out that, for example, the chord C diminished is the same as E flat diminished, which is the same as G flat diminished, which is the same as A diminished. Very important thing to remember sometimes when you get into a situation where the music's moving by real fast and you've got to play that little diminished arpeggio or a diminished bass line. It's always easy to remember that if you can't think of a one diminished chord, think of another that falls within that group. And that's helped me out of a scrape or 2 every now and then. If I couldn't think of D flat diminished, I was able to think of, for example, E diminished. And that was a little easier. So always remember that it's a symmetrical chord, the pattern repeats. As we talked about in the first 2 lessons, we have a procedure for identifying, capturing the fingering, and then moving on to playing the arpeggio all over the neck, and then, of course, learning the names of the notes that are in the arpeggio. This will really help you with your improvisation. Now, the thing about the diminished chord, and this is also true with augmented, as we'll find out, is there really is no diminished tonality. I suppose you could write a piece that used all diminished tonality, but generally speaking, in jazz, pop, classical, all the forms of Western music as we understand it, the centers of our tonality are usually either major or minor. So this makes this diminished chord a less frequently used, but in jazz especially, very important chord. The thing about the diminished chords is they often go by very quickly because you're moving from something to something. A lot of times a diminished chord might be moving to a 5 chord, or it has lots of other uses. But to get on back with the bass and talking about playing the triad, let's start with our first finger in 3rd position, A string, the note C. The nice thing about the diminished triad is whatever note our first finger falls upon, that is also the name of the diminished triad. So since my first finger is on C, if I play the pattern correctly on the correct strings, I'll get the C diminished triad. The fingering pattern for your left hand is 1, 4, make a string change to 1 string above you, and play 2. So let me play that for you slowly. We ready? Here we go. The 3 notes, C, E flat, G flat, of the C diminished triad. Now, of course, we can move that position anywhere on the bass neck that allows us to play that same fingering pattern. So, for example, let me move up 2 frets to D, and I'll play the same pattern and get the D diminished triad. Or I can move up a half step, play the E flat diminished triad. Start up here on the D string, 12th position. First note is D, the D diminished triad in 12th position. So feel free to move around anywhere on the bass neck and play that pattern. It will fall anywhere. Works out real nice. Once you have the sound and you have the triad under your fingers, so to speak, we can move it around the bass neck in a variety of different ways. Whole steps, half steps, cycle of fifths, minor thirds. Minor thirds is my personal favorite on the diminished because since the chord repeats itself, that's a good way to remind yourself that it is a symmetrical chord and it will repeat itself. So I would play something like that's moving the diminished triad arpeggio in minor thirds. But feel free to challenge yourself to move it around in a variety of ways. Again, the pattern is fingers 1, 4, string jump up 1 to second finger. Anywhere that you play that pattern will work out great for you.